Hi, Mona.
Hi, Jodi. I am so excited about our new endeavor. I'm Mona Kay, and I've been the host of the Neurodiverse Love podcast for 5.5 years. We didn't know we were a neurodiverse couple until our 29th year of marriage, and oh my gosh, did we misunderstand each other.
I'm Jodi Carlton, and my journey understanding autism and other types of neurodivergence started with my daughter, who's 23 now. We were married for 19 years, but we had no idea that he's autistic. I'm ADHD, and our son is ADHD.
Let's tell folks what we've decided to call our podcast,
Yes.
right? So we decided to call it Navigating Neurodiverse Love and Life. We're going to talk about neurodiverse romantic relationships, neurodiverse families, life as a neurodivergent person.
We are broadcasting this show on our individual podcast platforms and YouTube channels, and you can find links to all of that in our show notes. But oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. So there's my ADHD.
We'll probably do this a lot, lose our train of thought.
Yeah, so people will feel seen as it happens. Yeah.
Me too.
Send us your questions or your topics that you want us to talk about, and we'll choose from that to drive the show, basically, because I can promise you, whatever you ask, we'll have experienced it ourselves, or we've had clients who have. So send us your questions and your comments.
And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Hi, Mona.
Hi, Jodi. I am so excited about our new endeavor
Me too.
and our new partnership.
Yes,
And
me too. Again.
this is going to be so helpful for a lot of folks. I know that we've both been doing some really amazing work for many years, and we've gotten to be friends
Yes.
and colleagues. And everything we've done, we've really enjoyed a lot, everything we've done together.
I'm so glad that you asked me to do this. It was your idea, and it was perfect. You know, we both came to this realization individually that we were kind of done with maybe not done forever, but needed a difference in our podcasting. And we've both done a lot of seasons and interviews. And so let's tell people who we are and what we're doing here. Some of you know who we are, but a lot of you don't. So, Mona, tell people about you.
Okay. I'm Mona Kay, and I've been the host of the Neurodiverse Love podcast for 5.5 years, Jodi, over 5.5 years, which is
Wow.
crazy.
That is
Well,
crazy.
yeah, I started in September of 2020 in the middle of a pandemic. And for those of you that do know me, you know I was married for 30 years. We were together for 32. We didn't know we were a neurodiverse couple until our 29th year of marriage. And oh my gosh, did we misunderstand each other? Oh my gosh, did we unintentionally hurt each other over and over again? And I divorced from my husband, or we divorced in 2018. And so it's been 8 years. It's hard to believe. But after about 2 years of healing and therapy and all of that good stuff, I decided I wanted to tell my story because I knew I wasn't the only one who had experienced this, right? And telling my story, I realized not only was I not alone, but I could help other folks. And it's been really an honor and a true pleasure and a labor of love to do the podcast. But as you know, Jodi, I've done two online conferences, one in 2023 and one in 2025. And then the Neurodiverse Love docuseries, which you're in. And there are 4 episodes, and folks can find that on YouTube. And then I did the Neurodiverse Love conversation cards and the workbook and lots of workshops. And then you and we did, I think it was a 5 episode podcast on your podcast, and you've been on my podcast.
Yes, about navigating the decisions and choices that you make as you start to realize you're in a neurodiverse relationship. I have to plug the Neurodiverse Love docuseries because it's so good, and it's such a needed thing. And it the couples that you have on there share about their stories, and it's just so good. We watch it in my household, put it up on the big screen.
Thank
It's
you.
so nice. Yeah. So, and I think I don't even remember how you and I met. I know I've been on your podcast, maybe early season. You've been on mine several times, but it's been several years now. So, and yeah, I've enjoyed working with you so much, and I'm excited about this. I'm Jodi Carlton, and wow, my journey understanding autism and other types of neurodivergence started with my daughter, who's 23 now.
Wow.
And she was diagnosed as, well, it was called pervasive developmental disorder, not otherwise specified, which is a big
Hmm.
mouthful. When she was 5, it's considered autism now, level 1. And she's in college and doing great. But boy, there were years where we didn't know. She was delayed in her speech and just lots of developmental delays. And but she's amazing now and becoming proficient in Mandarin Chinese. And so anyway, she's amazing. But then along the way, there have been so many discoveries about neurodivergence. I started working as a therapist years ago, working with parents because I was one of the only therapists in town who understood parenting an autistic child. So I dove into understanding neurodivergence wasn't even a word I knew.
Right.
I didn't know that word. Judy Singer had already identified it, but I didn't know it. It wasn't taught in my counseling program. But my marriage ended 10 years ago in April of 2026,
Wow.
this year. So I've just celebrated my 10-year divorce anniversary, that's not funny. But we were married for 19 years and had no idea. We knew our daughter was autistic, but we had no idea that he's autistic and I'm ADHD, and our son is ADHD, and who's going to be 20 this next month. And so all of these discoveries have come along the way through the years, and it's been quite a journey. But I started working more with neurodiverse couples after my divorce. And I've told you before that I felt like a total imposter because who was I to talk to help people when my marriage had just completely failed? But people kept asking me for help, and I finally begrudgingly agreed to help a few people and then realized I understood their situation, their dynamics so much more than I ever thought, that I ever
Mhm.
realized, and that I had something to offer to at least help walk them through it. And then through the years now, I've met probably literally in the thousands of people who are neurodivergent couples. I developed a counseling and then coaching program where I see people worldwide. I have a podcast as well. Your Neurodiverse Relationship is my podcast that I've had for 5 seasons. I have a video channel and blogs, and my first book is about to be released this fall.
Yay.
So I'll go ahead and plug that. It's called The Misunderstood Mind. And the subtitle is What We Got Wrong About Autism, ADHD, and Neurodivergence. And it basically goes through how we got here and how we got to where we understand what neurodiversity is and how it has impacted us through the years in both negative and positive ways, and what neurodiversity really is about, what it means to be neurodivergent. And that's a lot of what we're here to talk about,
Yeah.
um, to give you our really personal take and behind the scenes in our lives. And we really just want this to be a casual chat between the
Hmm.
two of us. And we're going to answer questions from people who write into us and also people who have already commented and asked questions on our other platforms. So, what else do you have to add to all of that?
So let's tell folks what we've decided to call our podcast,
Yes.
right? So we decided to call it Navigating Neurodiverse and Love and Life.
Yes.
And, so we're going to talk about neurodiverse romantic relationships. We're going to talk about neurodiverse families. We're going to talk about life as a neurodivergent person
As
or
a parent,
as a
as a
parent.
parent,
Yes,
as a child, as an adult
right.
child
Exactly.
of neurodiverse
All of it.
parents. Yeah.
All of it. All of
Mm-hmm.
it. And I think the thing that's so exciting, Jody, is we have been on our healing journeys for a long time individually, and
Mm-hmm.
we're always going to be works in progress, always. I say that over and over again on my podcast. I think until the day I leave this earth, I will be working
Yeah.
on something internal and, being a better whatever it is. And for me, every relationship that I've had since my separation and then my divorce, oh my gosh, am I a better communicator? Do
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
understand my emotions better? Do I understand my part and my processes and what I need to regulate and how I get triggered?
And setting boundaries for
Oh my God.
ourselves.
And not being codependent. You and
Yes.
I have talked about that before, and that can be an episode in and of itself.
Hmm.
We were both codependent,
Yes.
and I have boundaries now. I
Yes.
am I'm not codependent anymore.
Hmm.
Somebody else does not take priority over me or my mental health or my emotions. So
Hmm.
there's so many important things that we're going to talk about that I
Hmm.
know are going to be so helpful to a lot of folks.
And we really want to hear from those of you who are watching or listening. We have, I know on my YouTube channel, I have hundreds of
Mm.
comments that I respond to all the time, and we're going to pull in some of those. We just to let everybody know, you will be able to watch this on each of our all of our platforms. Both of us, we're going to be publishing or broadcasting this show on our individual podcast platforms and YouTube channels, and you can find links to all of that in our show notes. But oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. So
It's okay.
there's my ADHD.
We'll probably do this a lot, lose our train of
Yeah,
thought.
so people will feel seen because it happens. That happens when I'm in session with people too sometimes, and they're like, "Oh God, you really do get it." And I'm like, "Yeah,
Me too,
yes,
me
I
too.
do."
I gotta write things down to make sure I'm tracking, right? And I didn't
Yeah,
write anything down today. So we
probably
really
over.
want to welcome all of you to this new partnership, as we work together, because I think we feed off of each other really well,
Yeah,
and we understand each other since we've worked together before, and
yeah.
we've known each
That's
other.
why
I
we've
would say it's
yeah.
four years at
At
least.
least 4 years, and
Yeah.
we've gotten to know each other really well.
Yes.
And so we've just kind of been there, done that. And oh, I remember, I do remember what I was going to say.
Okay, go ahead.
I was going to tell people we definitely want to hear from you. So you in the show notes you can see our email addresses, or and we'll give you contact information. We want you to send us your questions or your topics that you want us to talk about, and then we'll we'll choose from that to drive the show basically, because I can promise you whatever you ask we'll understand, we'll have experienced it ourselves, or we've had clients who have. So send us your questions and your comments. But I also wanted to just say, we were talking about learning from people, and you're the social worker and you connect people. I've also learned so much from my colleagues like you were the first person to say you're ADHD. And we've talked about that before. And I
Yes,
was like,
it's
what?
my fault.
It is. I know. And that was several years ago now. And
Yeah.
I was like, I was too close to the forest to see the trees. And I really understand it now. I'm definitely
Yeah.
ADHD and have been. I didn't get like a testing, but I did go and talk to a professional, and they're like, "Yes, you are."
Yeah.
Um, but I also founded the Neurodiverse Professional Peer Network
Yes,
probably
you
3
did.
years ago now, and we meet once a month on Zoom, and we talk about all the topics related to current research and client, stuff, and just everything. And everybody in that group is in this field
Mm.
of working with neurodiversity, and they're all there for a reason. And most of us, I would say 95% of us, are neurodivergent ourselves in some way, and or married to someone or has neurodivergent kids. So I just learned so much from others, and that's why we're here to share what we've learned.
Yeah, so I will add that I'm ADHD too, and I did not realize that my dad was autistic. And this month, actually, it'll be 21 years since his passing.
Mm,
And he died at 64, smoked
mm,
3 packs of cigarettes a day, had Valium in his pocket of his khakis so that he could pop them when the anxiety was overwhelming. And I just can't even imagine how different his life would have been if he
mhm,
had known he was autistic, and how different my parents' marriage would have been. I look back at how much they loved each other and
mm,
how often they misunderstood each other, and the
mm.
conflict, and that felt familiar.
Yeah.
So clearly that's the kind of relationship I got into too. And I know our daughter is neurodivergent. She's never been assessed, but we talk about, our ADHD traits. And I think it's so wonderful that our kids understand their brains and what their bodies need, and
Hmm.
can function better in life and in relationships, right?
Hmm.
Than we could.
I think that, oh gosh, there's so many things that I'm excited about for us to talk about on this show, and we can't get to all of it today. I think it's so important that our children, that's part of why I'm doing what I'm doing,
Me too.
is to not only understand it for myself and to help people worldwide, but to shift the whole narrative for my
Hmm.
family and for generations to come so that they go into adulthood and partnership and
Hmm.
family, raising family, understanding this stuff that I didn't understand, you didn't understand, our parents didn't understand. My mother is still alive. She lives with me and she's going to be 81 this year, very
Wow.
active. But we understand now that she's autistic and she has, once she actually came to live with us before my daughter was off away at college, she started really seeing traits in herself. We started realizing how much she and my daughter are alike. And so it's been so fascinating to understand her as autistic and then go back and look at my entire childhood through a new lens
Mm.
of getting her in a totally different way. And it's been
Yeah,
so healing.
I'm sure.
And she and I have had so many conversations
Mm.
about this, and she's very open and interested in talking about it. And then I also have the added layer that I know we're going to get into on the show in a probably future episode. But I have the added layer of, you talked about your parents. My parents had, parents divorced. My dad was a malignant narcissist.
Mm.
You know this. We've talked about this, and I share
Mhm.
about this in some of my videos and courses that I do. So my parents had this combination of malignant narcissism and autism. And honestly, this is a pattern that I've started seeing a lot in the work
Mm.
that I do with couples where autistic men and women are quite vulnerable to narcissistic personalities. And there's a difference in that and some of the dysfunctional stuff that happens in neurodiverse relationships. And people are really need help knowing the difference in what this is. Is this really toxic personality disorder stuff, or is this dysfunctional stuff that we can work with? And so, but like you, I went toward what I knew, and
Mhm.
I understand now that there was some narcissism in my marriage as well. And I have, and then I went after the divorce, I went straight to another narcissist, an autistic one.
Yeah,
And
I
those
hear you.
patterns, yeah, those patterns um, have started to become really clear to me in the work that I do and the people that I meet. So I'm hoping that by talking with you about some of that, you didn't have that in your marriage. You didn't have the narcissistic or antisocial sociopathic personality.
Mm-mm.
Um, and I'm hoping that we can also give people clarity. But I also want to just say to the people who are listening, this is not just an educational show that we're doing. We're going to be educating people a lot, but we really just want to get personal with everybody and take it down a notch from just teaching you, but just really sharing with you what it's like to be us and in our families and the type. But oh, I want to circle back. See, we're ADHD. They're going to have to get used to that, Mona, and listening to us. We're gonna
Yeah,
we're gonna be going all around in circles.
exactly.
You mentioned our bodies. That's something I really look forward to talking about on an episode. Is all of the stuff that goes along with being neurodivergent that
Hmm.
impacts our bodies, not just sensory differences, but medical type things. My
Yeah,
my family is, we have medical stuff, hypermobility and allergies and just the things, migraines and epilepsy and just things that happen to go along with it that a lot of people probably don't understand. And I'm looking forward to sharing with people what our experiences have been with all of
yeah.
that.
That's a big one. And for me, the perimenopause, the menopause issues for women who are neurodivergent and don't understand. And I had really, really bad postpartum depression after the birth of my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And now I know it was probably due to not knowing that I was neurodivergent. And I literally cried every single day for
Mm,
2 years. Even though I was bonding with my daughter and loving being a mother, I was just, yeah, my hormones and everything, my brain and body did not know how to adjust to,
yeah.
everything that was going on. And now there's a lot of research around this, but there
Mhm.
wasn't 30 years ago when I was pregnant and gave
And a
birth.
lot of these things, there wasn't research 5 or 10 years ago.
Right, right.
The menopause conversation has really only started in the last 5 to 10 years.
Yes.
And so we didn't know those things.
Yeah.
Yes, so we can talk for sure more about those types of things and just kind of going through our own journey of understanding what we were experiencing. I've had so many aha light bulb moments.
Me too.
It just in the last year, 2 years. And I learned
Yes.
from my clients. I know you can relate to this.
Yes.
I've tell them sometimes I'm farther down the road than you. But I'm still
Yeah.
going through this and understanding it. And I know you and I share the same mission of
Yes.
just reaching people. And you say this every time on the tagline of the Neurodiverse Love docuseries, you are not alone.
Hmm.
And that is one of the biggest things that this show is
Hmm.
about and that our mission is, I know.
Yeah. And for me, Jody, at the beginning, because I'm a social worker and I've run so many different programs throughout my career, I wanted to have a mission for
Hmm.
neurodiverse love. And my
Yes.
mission is to partner with others to increase understanding of the strengths, differences, and challenges in neurodiverse relationships. And that's why I've partnered with so many people because I know what I know. I know my life experience. I know my family experience. But just like you said, I've learned so much from
Hmm.
the coaching clients that I've worked with. And for those that don't know, I run a couple support group every month. And I also run two support groups that are free for the non-autistic partners. And like you said, I've probably met thousands of people too.
Hmm.
And there are so many patterns and so many themes that run through everybody's relationship and life. But
Hmm.
there's also differences. But the themes and the patterns, I know we're going to talk about a lot of them. And I know it's going to be helpful for a lot of folks to know they're not alone. Because I'm sure you get this too, Jody. People coming to see me and saying, oh my God, now I realize I'm not crazy.
Yes. Yes. Oh my God, you get it. Oh my God.
Right,
Nobody's ever said this to me.
right.
This just over and over again when I recognize those patterns. And I want to ask you just
Yeah.
let's pull back the curtain a little bit here. What was it like for you to start to really trust your pattern recognition? I know for me, trained as a therapist, I was really taught to be non-directive, and what that means is just not tell a client what I'm seeing and or maybe tell them what I'm observing, but not guide them and direct them and say, well, I think this or this is what's happening in your life, but really guide them toward their own, them figuring it out for themselves. And so it was hard for me as a therapist to start saying, yes, and this is happening and this is happening and I bet this is happening because that was just the antithesis of my training. And it was hard for me to start embracing that I saw these patterns and I could literally predict to people what was happening in their world and what would happen when they went and talked to their partner and what was that like? It was hard for me to embrace that because I felt like this is wrong. I've been taught not to do it this way. I've really embraced it now. But what was it like for you?
Yeah, see, I think it was different for me because when I first started in the MSW program, I thought I was going to be a clinician. And so I was
Okay.
doing therapy. And then I
Hmm.
realized I do not like this at all.
Why? Why didn't you like it?
Because I wanted to be a partner on the journey
Hmm.
with the people that I was working with. I mean, I was working with couples, I was working with juveniles who'd been diverted from the criminal justice system, I was working
Hmm.
with families, and I loved partnering with them. So I realized for me, social work on a different path was important. So I worked with clients as a social worker, helping them navigate systems. helping them understand what their purpose in life was, understand what their strengths were. Part of the motto of being a social worker is to start where the client is and to focus on their strengths. And
Mhm.
so that felt really good for me.
Mhm.
So helping folks see what was working and
Mhm.
what wasn't, and then talking about why it wasn't working through a
Mhm.
neurodiverse lens felt so social workery to me.
So that's interesting because for the longest time, I was not trained as a social worker.
Right.
And I think it's a cool conversation to have
Yeah.
because people are often wondering, who do I go to? Like, where do I go? And they don't know the difference between an LCSW, a licensed clinical social worker, an LPC, which is what I was, licensed professional counselor. They don't really know the difference, or psychiatrist,
Right.
psychologist. I was trained as a therapist, and we were also taught to meet people where they are, but much less case management oriented, like plugging them into systems. It's more, let's analyze what you're thinking and feeling and why and what the root of that is. And I definitely love being a detective. I use that word a lot in the work that I do with people is let's be a detective. Let's unpack it. Let's see what's in there.
Hmm.
And then also connecting them to resources. But I used to have a tagline in my email signature that said, I'll meet you right where you are. And
Mm.
that's what you just said. So there's
Yeah.
definitely this overlap. But you do coaching some now. I do coaching. And I think some people might want to know, what does that even mean? People still think they're getting therapy when they come to me, and I'll say to them, I don't do therapy anymore,
Mm.
and you don't do therapy. So let's talk about that for a second and what that means.
So for me, I've kind of narrowed it down to three things that I share with folks who come to the support groups, come for coaching. And I say, I am here to help educate you. So I serve as an educator or a teacher about
Mm-hmm.
things that you might not be familiar with. I am here to serve as a translator. And everybody who's in a neurodiverse relationship needs a translator. And then the third thing is I am a navigator or a guide, and I help them learn new processes, new tools for communication, understanding what each other needs and why, and how to give it to each other or give things to themselves. And they're like, oh, that totally makes sense. That's exactly what we need: education, translation, and help with navigating, our relationship or our path forward. And that's what I tell folks.
Mm-hmm.
And, I narrow it down to those things so they can understand this isn't therapy. We're looking at the here and now, what patterns and themes are causing conflict and challenges, and how can we work together to either
Mm-hmm.
address them if you all want to, because Jody, this is a challenge.
Yeah.
Sometimes one partner comes in and they don't want to do any work. They've been forced to come in
Mm-hmm.
and they hear what's being discussed, but then nothing changes after, a few sessions. So, yeah.
And I think that that's one of the problems with some therapy, especially with this population, because there's
Mhm.
not a whole lot of movement and progress when you get stuck in therapy. And your clients, my clients, have all shared with us that therapy has made things worse. And it did for me in my marriage. I think one of the biggest differentiators, well, I have a very similar model to you. It's more of a triage. We triage it, we unpack it, we figure out what's going on. That's the detective mode.
Hmm.
And then we start implement. I teach so much is teaching of
Yeah.
what I do, teaching, affirming, validating so that people are like, oh, and I'm like, yes, this is neurodivergence, or this is executive dysfunction, or
Hmm.
this is sensory. Yesterday, I was talking to a client about how the whole family's neurodivergent and how they all have different sensory profiles and how you have to adjust your whole home so that nobody's overloaded sensory wise. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of education and problem solving and then implementing what they're learning about all of that communication, and that's where it's coaching. Whereas therapy, a lot of people are expecting to come in and talk about what they're processing and feeling emotionally, and to talk about how they feel and how what their partner is doing or saying that's hurtful. And I think a lot of people go into therapy wanting to feel better. They want the
Right.
therapy to make them feel better. They want their partner to apologize a lot of times, and
Yes.
there is that is important work, but I don't think, and you and I have said this many times, that for neurodiverse couples, that is not the best approach because we
Hmm.
have such differing degrees of how we process emotions, how we think, how we perceive, and they're not even speaking the same languages half the time as far
Mm-mm.
as what an emotion word means. Or and so we have to translate we have to translate all of that first. And so that's really, to me, now a lot of my clients also have their own therapist, not as a couple
Yes.
but
Yes.
as an
Mine too.
individual. And I love
Yeah.
that because I'm like, go process what you're feeling with
Hmm.
your therapist and help you, and go process why that something triggers you. Where does that come from? Is that
Right.
family of origin stuff? Is that, what is that?
Codependence, is there
Yes.
trauma that is unhealed? I often
Yes.
refer people
Yes.
to a somatic therapist
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
there's so much stored inside that they
Yes.
don't realize needs to be healed. And I had to go to a somatic therapist to
Yes.
heal and become a better
I've been
partner.
through various types of therapy myself. I've had
Me
hypnosis,
too.
I've had eye movement therapies, and all of that to heal the trauma. And like you said, so many of our clients are going to be like us in that they come from generations of neurodivergence because we
Yeah,
go to what we know.
right.
So, yeah, gosh, we could talk. I know we could talk about this stuff all day long. To wrap up today, let's encourage people to reach out to us, tell us what you want to hear. Is if there's anything about our personal lives that you want to know about, ask away.
Ask.
We're both pretty open books.
Yes.
Anything else you want to add?
Yeah. So where do people find you, Jodi?
Oh, of course I forgot that. JodiCarlton.com, and it's Jodi with an I. But if you just search my name, even if you misspell it, I think you'll find me.
And you find me neurodiverselove.com,
Yep.
and you can find all my stuff. Yeah, so Jodi, I'm looking forward to lots of great conversations and lots of ADHD moments.
Me too. All right, folks. See you next time.
See you next time.